Welcome to my channel. Click on that little red button to subscribe to my channel and click on that bell notification icon to be notified. Doctors and nurses of Reddit. Have you ever witnessed a couple have a child that was obviously not the father's? If so, what happened? We worked in the Army hospital on Fort Lewis. A woman came in for belly pain and we found out and told her she was 10 weeks pregnant. The husband at the bedside started laughing, grabbed his coat, and left the room, explaining to us that he had been in Afghanistan until 3 weeks prior. He looked back at her and just said, "Well, that's Brittany." I always liked how classy he left her while she just silently stared off into space. I had a vasectomy. While chatting with the doctor, he told me about another patient. This guy had 3 kids and came in for snip because he and his wife decided that they were done having children. The doc opened up his sack and found nothing to snip. The guy was born without the ability to have any children. The poor doctor had to explain to him what happened. Imagine finding out that way. Oh man, I'm so late to this thread. I used to work in the newborn nursery at a hospital. We got the babies right from delivery, cleared them up, fingerprinted them, checked vitals, etc. Dads usually came in with the newborns. This dad comes in with his baby. Dad is white, mom is white, baby is obviously not white. The dad was very quiet, standing next to his baby, watching us clean it up. He says quietly, "I don't think this is my baby." You could tell he was absolutely devastated. We advised him not to sign the birth certificate until he was sure. Not sure what happened after, we sent the baby back to mom, but I felt awful for the guy. I work in anesthesia. One of my colleagues had someone vaginally deliver a baby with Steve's lunchbox tattooed above the birth canal. The OB/GYN said to the father after the delivery, "Congrats, Steve." The guy replied that his name was not Steve. Don't know if that counts. I used to work with a guy whose wife was pregnant. Near time for delivery, everyone at our place business had a big party with gifts, money, etc. So big day comes, water breaks, they get in the car, they go to the hospital. She breaks the news on the way there that it's not his, the kid is another race, and if he could just drop her off at the hospital and leave, that would be great. He took a few days off work, found a new apartment, moved out, filed for divorce, etc. He called into work and told someone what happened. News spread pretty fast. All congratulations cards were cleaned up and thrown away. Everyone was sensitive to his pain. Except somehow, I don't know how, I did not get the news. So on his first day back, I walked in the office as he shared with other 6 to 7 guys and said, hey, Daddy-o, how's fatherhood so far? Getting any sleep? Got some pictures? Let's see the little tyke. He slowly lifted his head to look at me with a painful look. The room was dead silent. One of his workmates stood up, grabbed my arm, and walked me out of the room, shushing me. What happened? I asked. Did it die? What's the problem? What he told me, I almost died myself. I still feel so bad for the dude, and it's been 30 years. Had a lesbian couple come in. One of them was pregnant, either knew. Judging from all the screaming, this information was poorly received. Had a college buddy whose fiancée was pregnant. They were the perfect couple. Both had just over a year with great careers starting out. Everything was butterflies and rainbows. Fast forward to the delivery room, they're in there and comes out a very black baby. He's quite a pale redhead and she's a blonde, blue-eyed Texas girl. He made sure everyone was okay, waited for parents to arrive, and left without saying a word. He moved all his stuff out of the house while she was in the hospital and cut off all communications with her. Just walked out of their lives in the most cold act I've ever seen. They were together for 9 years and he just left cold turkey. She tried to contact him at his job a few times, but he quickly moved up the ladder and eventually got a job in another city. He told me once that he took solace to the fact that her family had already dropped out about $10,000 in a wedding that never happened. My son came out and looked really tan. My ex-girlfriend and I are pretty white. I thought for a second she cheated on me. We are now separated for different reasons unrelated to our child. And he's pasty white as hell. Got one heck of a suntan in the uterus though. I'm a nurse, but this didn't happen to me. A friend of mine got pregnant in high school. She claimed it was our local doctor's son's kid, so he agreed to deliver his grandchild for free. Child delivered, and it was obviously half African American. Doctor's son and girl were both white. I think he still delivered for free, as he was relieved his 14-year-old son wasn't a dad. I worked at a lab tech before I became a nurse. We had a set of twins in the NICU that were super early, and the mom was still in the OR getting sued up from the cesarean. I was drawing baby B's blood when mom was wheeled over to baby A's isolate. She was crying and said, "Oh, thank God you're not black." I've been so worried the last 7 months. So newborn babies, especially when they're born early, are very pink, almost red. So even if a baby was part black, their skin isn't necessarily dark yet. But looking at these babies, it was obvious they were going to be black. The shape of the face, the texture of the hair, and baby B that I was working on had an intense Mongolian spot. A few weeks later, my NICU nurse friend told me that the babies were now on a no info status, meaning security alert, can't give any information about them, can't refer to them by name, etc. She said that was a huge fight because the mom's husband, a white guy, obviously noticed that the baby were half black and that mom cheated on him and got pregnant. The real dad, black guy, came in and didn't realize the mom was married. Those poor babies. Random note from the side of academia. This is why they don't do blood tests compared to your parents in a college, Marshall University, to teach basic genetics. Too many were finding out they didn't have any chance of being their father's child. I only heard the horror stories secondhand, but the results speak for themselves. I had the opposite happen, sort of. My wife and I are both brown-skinned, dark-haired, half Mexicans, and our mom are both 100% white blondes with blue and green eyes. So we kind of knew it was a crapshoot with our baby, but the nurse who was assisting with delivery had no idea. At one point she gets sort of nervous and calls help. Another, I guess more senior nurse came in and nodded and came over to talk to me. I thought there was something wrong with the baby as she comes over and stumbles through some questions. So I was the father and no one else was coming, etc. Then finally she awkwardly asks us if either of us happened to be blonde growing up. I said yeah, I was, and both the baby's grandparents are blonde, and they came and this wave of relief went over her. She brought me over to see this blonde as hell crying baby head. It's funny because he looks just as me. Apply the gringo Instagram filter. We often get awkward questions about his heritage, and his wife always gets hit with, "Yeah, we're not sure if he's mine." It's always fun to see people nod for a moment and go, "Wait, what?" When I was born, the Indian doctor told my very, very white parents, "Oh, she looks like an ethnic baby." It's a funny story years later, but I imagine it wasn't so funny when my brunette mother had to explain to my blonde dad that yes, this baby was with a full head of long, jet black hair was actually his child. I always wondered if my dad had some doubts about me the first few months of my life before my hair turned blonde. Not quite what you're asking, but in the same vein. I'm a nurse in a level 4 neonatal ICU. We service the sickest of the sick from our state and the surrounding states, so we see it all. We had a baby that was sick as not. Lo and behold, we discovered its blood, spinal fluid. It was septic with herpes. In most babies, we avoid this by treating the herpes while the mom is pregnant. In this case, the mom didn't even know she was a carrier. So where did it come from? This is the awkward and sickening moment when everyone in the room realized where the herpes came from. Turns out the father had an affair and contracted the virus from his lover. So yeah, while the woman's baby is on the verge of death, she found out her husband has been cheating on her, and his cheating ass is the reason why the baby is sick. Similar, but I don't know where else to put this, but it makes me laugh. My aunt is a nurse in the maternity ward. She had a couple come in where they were both very black. Lady had a baby and it is white as F, like usually pale, no trace of any pigment. They put the baby on her mom, and the mom starts yelling about how this isn't her baby, and they stole her baby. In all fairness, you can be very confused during and after delivery. It wasn't stupidity, just sobbing and freaking out. And the father is just sitting there, and looks very confused because even he's realizing that even if she did cheat, there is no way that the baby would be white. The doctor and nurses are trying to assure that this is her baby, and the skin is usually darkens that later. Come to find out, when he called his mom, she pointed that they have a second cousin who is albino, and maybe the baby got that gene. Turns out that's what happened, the baby was albino. My fiance's father is almost certainly not his biological dad. His mom was just a genuinely terrible human being who didn't even try to hide the fact that she was cheating. But his dad loved him from the second he was born. And when the mom decided 4 years later she just didn't want the kid anymore, she just gave it to him, his dad, and rolled off. Jay's dad ended up getting married, and they tried for kids before finding out his sperm count was too low to ever father children. They ended up adopting many years later. He sat my fiance down when my fiance was 13 and told him the truth, that if Jay wanted to test, they would, but it was up to him. Jay cried and told him he just wanted him to be his dad, and that was the end of that. Labor and delivery nurse here. Black babies are usually a lot lighter at birth. Not everyone is aware of this, so I've had a few dramatic deliveries where the father looks at the baby and accuses the mom of cheating because the baby isn't as dark. Lots of drama happens on L&D. I know a girl who's pregnant with her boyfriend's best friend's baby. He found out that there was a possibility about a week before she gave birth. I went up to see her once he was born, and he looked just like the friend. There was no question. I broke the news to her boyfriend, and he was absolutely devastated. Her parents were heartbroken and super pissed. They had brought out the girl everything she needed, including a $500 car seater / stroller set. She refused to give anything back. She started up a relationship with a friend immediately after having a child, and they're still together a decade later. But the kicker for me was that the boyfriend and the best friend were next door neighbors. She moved into the house after coming home from the hospital. So her ex-boyfriend and his family had to see them basically every day raising this child they had believed to be his for the entire pregnancy. I can't even imagine.